All right. Hi, my name is Jeremy Sosa, and today I'm presenting on anti-Asian racism in America, specifically a stereotype from the 1800s called Yellow Peril, resurfaced during the COVID-19 pandemic. I chose this topic because I personally found it to be interesting, as it is one of the more recent events. What we'll cover, I'm going to walk through this in 5 parts. First one being the historical roots of anti-Asian racism. Second one being the model minority myth and why it's more harmful than it sounds. Third, how COVID-19 triggered a surge in hate incidents. Fourth, who's actually affected and how. And finally, the mental health impact and how communities have responded to it. And along the way, I also bring in 3 peer-reviewed sources that I found through the library, sociology article, a public health study, and the final one being a research piece that connects the historical to current stereotypes. Um, to understand what happened in 2020 when COVID-19 hit, we have to go back over a century in the 1870s and 80s. Back then, anti-Chinese propaganda in San Francisco branded Chinese immigrants as unclean and a threat to American society. That fear led directly to the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, one of the first U.S. laws to ban immigration based on nationality. And in the 1940s, that same yellow peril fear was used to justify incarcerating Japanese Americans during World War II. And in the 1980s, as Japan's economy grew, anti-Asian violence spiked again. And so this is the pattern that we can see. Whenever there's a real or perceived threat from Asia, the fear gets redirected at Asian Americans here at home. That also brings me to the model minority myth. It's the idea that Asian Americans are the good minority, be it hardworking, high achieving, no complaints. This sounds like a compliment, but according to one of the sources that I found, researchers Lee and Nicholson, in a 2021 article in Sociology Compass, argued that Yellow Peril and the minority myth are actually two sides of the same coin. They both frame Asian Americans as useful to America, but never fully belonging. The model minority myth does 4 things. It praises Asian Americans for success, but it also erases real diversity within the communities. And not everyone is doing equally well. It's been used to divide Asian Americans from other communities of color by implying that if they can succeed, why can't you? And ultimately, it isolates Asian Americans. They are treated as perpetual outsiders, no matter how successful they are. And that's exactly why, when a crisis hit in 2020, COVID-19, that switch flipped so fast from model minority back to yellow peril. The pandemic surge, like I said, and that's exactly what happened with COVID-19. This isn't a new form of racism. It was, you can say it was the same script, just reactivated and accelerated by also by political rhetoric like calling COVID-19 the Chinese virus, according to Stop AAPI Hate, which runs the largest hate incident reporting center in the country. There were 12,255 reported incidents between 2020 and 2023. And just in the first 2 years, March 2020 to December 2021, that's already 10,905 incidents. And this isn't just a blip, you can say, during 2020. As of 2025, 49% of API adults reported experiencing a hate act in just that 1 year. So what does this actually look like? Breaking down the Stop API hate data, 65% of incidents are verbal harassment, those being slurs, being told to go back where they came from. 60% are what's called deliberate avoidance, that being shunned or avoided in public, which is quieter still, but it's deeply isolating. 12% are civil rights violations, like workplace discrimination or being refused service, and 9% are online harassment. That verbal harassment number is the headline, I would say, but I actually think that the deliberate avoidance number is just as important. It's hard to document, so it probably doesn't get talked about as much. This also isn't experienced equally across the community. API Women report harassment at the highest rate, almost 70%, compared to 63% for men and 56% for non-binary people. But non-binary people respondents are actually report the highest rates of that quieter form, that being deliberate avoidance and shunning, at over 21%. So race and gender are intersecting here in ways that a single Asian American statistic would miss. Beyond the incident, mental health. Like I said, this isn't just about those individual experiences that API people experience. There's a real public health impact to it. A 2022 study in the American Journal of Public Health found that these incidents are linked to racial trauma, anxiety, and the fear that leads people to basically avoid public spaces altogether. Many incidents also go unreported because of the language barriers or the fear of retaliation, and the effects don't stop with the person targeted. They also somewhat ripple out to families and even entire neighborhoods. For me, what really stood out while researching this is that the numbers haven't seemingly gone down. 49% in 2023, 53% in 2024, and 49% again in 2025. This is I would say this is a sustained pattern, not a pandemic era spike that faded. Stop API Hate's most recent report ties this directly to ongoing anti-immigrant political rhetoric, which tells me that this is being actively fueled and are not just leftovers from 2020. But I would say that the good news is that the communities haven't stayed silent. Stop API Hate itself is a coalition that forms specifically to track these incidents. Beyond just reporting, they also do research on mental health and civil rights impacts. They push for state level policy changes, and they run programs to build community safety and political power in API neighborhoods as well. So, to wrap up, anti-Asian racism isn't new. We've seen that with all these other events that happened along history. The pandemic basically reactivated a script that's over 100 years old. The model minority myth isn't actually a compliment. It erases diversity and keeps Asian Americans in a outsider status. The impact isn't gendered. It's often underreported and has a real, lasting mental health consequences. And this pattern has outlasted the pandemic still, uh, which tells us it's connected to something bigger than one crisis. And these are the sources I use. Thanks for watching.